This is the when I first came out and posted that video back in August that led me on this crazy journey that's led me to talking to you right now. That was one of the things that infuriated me so much about the party, is that I worked in fundraising. So what I did was, all day, as I do call time with people with and I'm sure Jen knows all about this. She ran for Congress, right? You have to do call time. And I'd listen to these I'd listen to these candidates, and I worked in progressive fundraising, okay? But I'd listen to them, and they would get on the phone and they'd talk about the Koch brothers, and then turn around and call and beg, Alexander Soros for money. And it was just such a constant hypocrisy. There was just so much hypocrisy that was constantly going on that over time it wore me down. It chipped away at my soul, and I just couldn't do it any longer. And I feel like this is all sort of coming to the surface. And what I saw through all my years in fundraising, maybe the American people will finally start to see now too, with these ridiculous statements like, we only take money from good billionaires, not bad billionaires. There's now suddenly an oligarchy when there wasn't one before. Like, of course there was one before. And what befuddles me is that they think the American people don't see through it. The only people that don't see through it are the people who live in San Francisco and Brooklyn, the same people that are talking about, the gender X and wokeness and are still perpetuating all of this crazy identity stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I've said this to many people already. I think that the Democrats are going to lose in 2028. I think that they're going to continue on with this stuff. For everybody who thinks that DEI is dead or that wokeness is dead, I don't think it is at all. I think it's coming right back. I think it's coming back more forcefully and with a vengeance. And I think that they're going to have to lose again in 2028. And that's going to be the only way for those people to finally be expelled from the party. What do you think?
I don't think it matters. I think there's a reason why, if I'm reading this correctly, that David Hogue was picked as the vice chair of the DNC. I have said time and again, obviously what happened in Parkland was a tragedy, but Parkland is one of the most affluent suburbs of South Florida. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of gun violence in South Florida, but they cared a lot about these school kids because it was in an affluent community, and this kid saw an opportunity to ascend the political ladder, and he's been doing it ever since 2017.
Okay.
He does not give a flying fuck about any of these issues. He was dead silent when Jen was running against Wasserman Schultz both times. Mm-hmm. You care about your future? No. I mean, you care about your own future, but you're talking about the future of working people and millennials and Gen Z.
He can't even relate to that. He has no perception or concept of what that even means.
He comes from a wealthy family. He went to Harvard, and now he has a prestigious job, apparently, within the Democratic Party. So yes, there's a reason why somebody like David Hogue gets picked for a position, and somebody like AOC, who came in as a radical, if you want to call her that, got her mind right, kissed as much ass as humanly possible, and even that wasn't good enough, that they handed it over to a guy who not only has cancer, but looks like he's going to succumb to it over the course of this next 2-year congressional period. Representative Connolly was apparently suffering from some type of a blue hue to his skin the other day, which means that he's having severe blood circulation problems. And when you have cancer, again, it eats at your body. It eats it, and it's eating at his esophagus, I believe is where he has it. And so it's just a reflection in many ways of how far they've sunk and how much further they're willing to sink. I just don't know if enough people have recognized that we have to move away. Electoral politics matters. No question that it does. But this idea that you need to be fighting within the two-party system in order to have your impact, it's not true.
Yeah, I agree.
If you care about left populism, then the movement is with labor. That's where it's at. There are things that Trump will do well as president. There's also things he's going to do terribly, including what he's going to do to the one possibly positive thing that Biden did during his presidency, and that's improvements of the NLRB. And they're going to strip him blind completely, going to do everything they can to break any type of labor movement, however limited it is. Biden was the first president since Reagan to break a labor strike. That will never be forgotten.
Yeah, he broke the railroad strike, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I like Sean Fain and I like Sean O'Brien.
And what do you think of his labor secretary pick, Chavez Dreamer? She's supposed to be pretty pro-labor for a Republican.
Probably the best pick that he's made so far.
Yeah.
And we'll see what ultimately unfolds. But the fact is, Trump is not the person that the MAGA. You see, I get so fucking sick and tired of people. And this is the thing I despise about liberals. It's much like the Israelis with the Palestinians. Liberals truly believe that they're just better than conservatives.
They do.
Like that we're morally superior. We're more intellectually superior. Well, maybe by your standards, you might think that you are. But in fact, it makes you worse, because at least people who are conservative, there's at least some humility to them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've entered these more right-wing circles in the last couple of months of my life, and I find that when I disagree, because I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I voted for Donald Trump this election. I don't know if you knew that or not. I'm still
you told me that in private, but
I'm still an independent. I could, it doesn't mean that I vote GOP now or anything. It's just, I thought he was the better choice this election. And so, that being said, I've gone into these more right-wing circles and I've had discussions and conversations, and like my core beliefs, my core values haven't changed just because I voted for a Republican. Like, I still want some form of universal health care. I have a genetic illness, a disease that I've had my entire life, and it's made me sick, and I've been on Medicaid, and I've also been without health insurance and being a very sick person and being poor, and that's
sucks, doesn't it?
It's a really scary place to be. Yeah, and I'll never ever ever forget it. And so that's just something that I can never budge on. And I talk to people that are right wing and I tell them this. And I've never been called the B word. I've never been called the C word. I've never been called a racist. Nobody's ever personally attacked me for expressing that belief or that opinion. They'll ask me questions about it, like, oh, well, how do you think we could pay for something like that? Or do you really think that, do you think we'd be able to pay doctors? Like, they have questions that I don't always agree with their line of thought, but they're just, I don't know if they're more emotionally mature. And I'm not saying this will continue to be the case. I'm sure at some point I'll run into some human out there that is on the right that acts like a leftist towards me or something. But by and large, in these circles, when you express a different viewpoint, there is not this automatic hostility and finger pointing the way that sorry, I got a little distracted. Yeah. The comment, cool, thanks for following me, Tony D. There is not this this finger pointing and the way that there is on the left, and this automatic ostracization that occurs. And it's been so refreshing. Again, I'm not a Republican now. I am really excited for Donald Trump, and I think he's going to do some really great things.
Oh, we're going to do a lot of great things. It's going to be really great.
One of the things that kept me from voting for Trump is I didn't want him to try to overturn the ACA like he did the first time around. And he's made a campaign promise not to do that. And just yesterday, I saw him talking to the press about Doge. And one of the questions was, are you going to defund Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? Because that's been, you and I have actually talked about this privately before too, and he assured, no, absolutely not. Those are precious programs. We're not going to touch this. No, they won't. And that is the key difference between Donald Trump as a Republican and I think prior Republican presidents that we've had, like George W. Bush, who did launch a campaign to privatize Social Security, back in 2004. So, I think.
The thing, and I wanted to throw in a thought that I think you would definitely want to hear, would want to comment on, and that is the best thing that Trump has done so far as president, in my opinion, is he has now excommunicated as many as 50 national security advisors led by John Brennan, John Bolton, and James Clapper. Their security clearance has been completely revoked. They cannot come to the White House or the U.S. Capitol anymore. And what was so amazing about that is this is the one, like, universally positive thing. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If Trump has done anything to the GOP, and we certainly hope that he has, is that he's killed neoconservatism.
Yes.
And if that is the case, then Ilhan Omar came out today and lauded Trump for making this decision.
I saw that.
And then, of course, you have one of the biggest Dem consultant grifter motherfuckers out there in Aaron Rupar, who I'm sure you know pretty well, decided to comment how Ilhan is sucking up to Trump in his roundabout way of trying to defend John Bolton. And I'm thinking, yeah, there's liberals who will eat this shit up and think that he's right.
Isn't it crazy? I was just on this other show and they were talking about the Maha movement and just how it's so wild because 15 years ago, eating healthy and having healthy foods was like a liberal point of view, right? And all of a sudden, just because Donald Trump has nominated RFK Jr., liberals have completely relinquished those values from their belief system. They're like suddenly like, no, we don't want to make food healthy. We don't want to talk about vaccine efficacy. Like, we don't even want to go near those things. No. And it just shows the level of derangement that the people on the left have about Trump. It's like, good for Ilhan Omar for lauding him and saying that he did a good thing, because that is a good thing that he did. And there are just so many people on the left that won't see nuance and will just automatically take the opposite position of whatever Donald Trump is doing.